All right, everyone. I want to take a moment to really quickly go over the Chapter 11 homework. I'm going to briefly discuss a few things about it and give you some ideas behind it, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. Everyone pretty much did a great job on it, so with that, let's just jump in. Now, with the Chapter 11 homework, this is what we wanted to create. We have this superclass, and then we have classes that are going to extend from it. So with that, let's kind of pull this to the side. I'm going to take a look. Here is our superclass. This is the private class ship. And if we take a look at it, based on that UML diagram, we know that it has three private properties. We've got a name, we have the year, is afloat. We've got this nice constructor to go ahead and assign everything to the appropriate variables. We've got some getters and setters here. This is a float is the getter, and the set afloat is the setter. And then we got some get name and get year. On top of that, we went ahead and override the toString. Now remember, everything that we have here, ship itself is overriding the toString from its base class, which we all extend from the same base class. So this is the private string toString return, and we're going to go ahead and format this. Now, a lot of you did the plus signs, and while that's okay, we really do want to start getting into the habit of using better formats, better looking code, and so string.format's the right way to go about this. So we have the ship name, year launched, is float, this name, year, and is float. Along with that, we've got the other classes, like the cruise ship. And remember, cruise ship is extending now from the ship. This makes this a subclass. And we've added the additional two properties that we wanted to add to this class, to this particular class. And so now, because we're extending from ship, it gets all of the ship class items, as well as all of the cruise ship items that we're adding now. So of course we're going to have a nice constructor that builds this up. We're going to call the super method. This will call the super's constructor and put these items in, as well as now we're going to assign these private variables as well. We've got a getter on the passengers and the zone, and then we've got the string.format. Again, we're formatting what's supposedly coming. Now here's the interesting thing. You'll see that I'm calling the super toString. And so let's go back to our super. And I actually remember doing this. I put this string in, and we actually really should get rid of that line break. We shouldn't assume that the line break is there, because the super class might be just instantiated all on its own, in which case we might not want a line break. So we'll go ahead and do that. But now we go look at our subclasses, and I've got that super toString with now the line break and then the rest of the string. Same thing with the cargo ship. We're going to extend the ship's superclass. We're going to call the super, fill that information in, along with all these other pieces of information for the private variables that are under cargo ship. We're going to add a get capacity. It looks like I'm missing the, let's make sure, yep. In our UML, get capacity is the only getter that it's being asked for. The cargo is not being asked for. So you cannot get the cargo from this method externally, because there is no getters for that. I don't know if that was the way the UML was meant to be, but that's the way it is, so that's where we're going with it. And again, we did the string format. We're calling the super toString, capacity, and we're using our private variables. Alright, so now we've got the warship. I didn't really do the warship because I wanted to walk that through real quick. So again, we know that we want to extend, from ship Let's go ahead and make sure that we have a constructor. We're also going to have a couple of private variables here. What was that? We've got the type and the nation. So private string type. Private string nation. Alright, so we got our two types here. We've got the private string type and the private string nation. And now we will go and finish up our constructor. And we can kind of cheat. We can go over to our superclass real quick, copy that out, speed this up a little bit, and then let's add our new variables. And then we're going to call the super constructor with the name, year, and as a float. And let's go ahead and set up and establish our private variables from what we just got passed in. There we go. Now, with that said, we only have one method that we need to make in this, and it is the override. So again, I'm going to cheat a little. I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to copy what I've already done once. And there is our string method. We're going to call the super class. But we have something completely different to put in here. So we're going to figure that out. And it is ship name it's going to be a string. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's wrong. Let's try this again. Type, and then it's a string. Operated by another string. And no punctuation. So that's great. Go over here. We can be fancy if we want. This type. This nation. We didn't really need to do this notation because we don't have any competing variable names. But now we've done it. It's nice. Go ahead and save it. So now we have our superclass with our three subclasses. So now we can go over to our ship test where our void main is and follow directions. So first up, it says make two objects that are declared type ship, but actual type cruise ship. Now, we know that the cruise ship requires a few parameters, so let's go ahead and get those done. We're going to give it a name. If you want to stick with the information already in our sample output to make life a little easier, we can. Now we gotta make our next ship. This one is named the Titanic, which seems a little cruel to me. But we'll go ahead and go along with it. 1912. It's not afloat. And it had 1,300 passengers out of the Atlantic Ocean. Oh my goodness. Alright, next thing we need to do says make one object of declared type ship, but actual type cargo ship. So again, we're pretty much following the same technique here. And the name of that cargo ship is Faro 1974. Is not afloat. It is carrying containers, and it has 391 of them. Next up, this one is make a cargo ship from a cargo ship. This one's called Seawise Giant. Launched in 1979. Is it afloat? False. It's carrying crude oil. And it happens to have 564,763 on it. Now we want to make a ship of declared type warship in an actual type warship. So that one's pretty easy. Warship. We did capitalize the S on that. And this is called the USS Nimitz. It was launched in 1972, and it is still afloat. And it is a super carrier. operated by the United States Navy. Alright, not seeing any real errors, so we can continue on. Now, we're going to put all of this into an array. I believe it's called fleet. Yes, it's called fleet. So it's a fleet of ships. Now, I'm doing this briefly and quickly. I don't know that ship 1 through 5 is the appropriate set of variables, although it does kind of work for this. You may want to have been a little bit more creative. And this is one of those areas that some of you got right, some of you didn't. Again, if we're going to create a for loop, let's make use of the best for loop we can. Next up, we want to make an array list from our array. The easiest and one of the most compact ways of doing that is to use the array list. We're going to call it fleet list. New array list of type ship. From using the arrays class, of course, we have not imported that, so let's go ahead and do that. Now it wants us to pass this array list to a new method we can create. So let's go ahead and create that new method. And this method is going to return an int, and it's going to take in the array list of type ship. We're going to count up the number of ships that are sunk, as well as do a few other things. One of the things that we have to do right off the bat is remove number 2. That's pretty easy. And then we're going to add one. So let's make a new warship. And that is the USS John Warner, launched in 2015. It is afloat. It is a attack submarine operated by the United States Navy. Next up on this is we are going to use a for loop. We're going to go ahead and output it to the console. Let's call the toString method of the object. And we're going to also say, hey, if this target ship is a float, put the little exclamation point out there to say, is it not a float? Then let's make our sunken ships increment. And at the end of that, we need to return our sunken ships count. There we go. Now back up to our main method. Call our method. And then let's print out to the screen the number of it's actually the integer length of these ships sank. Got a little lazy there. Let's get the system out. Print F. And let's save that. And let's go ahead and run this. There's my console. There's my output. Exactly what I would expect from my output. I hope that helped. I hope you can take this and rewind and fast forward as you need to kind of take a look. I know it was pretty quick. But again, I just wanted to give you an idea of what Chapter 11 is about.